Welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara. I'm here to welcome you into the world of orgasmic living by hosting experts to discuss orgasmic topics such as nutrition, spirituality, personal development, sexuality, and much more. Here, we will offer lifestyle lessons that can help you lead a fulfilling, joyous, and orgasmic lifestyle. I'm your guide, Venus O'Hara. Welcome to the 27th episode of the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara. In this new moon episode, I'll be discussing work, career, and success. We'll be speaking to Emilie Wapnick, author of How to Be Everything, a guide for those who still don't know what they want to be when they grow up. Then, I'll be discussing the book I'm reading now, which is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And finally, we'll be experiencing a guided meditation with affirmations for a successful career. But first, let's talk about my own professional career journey. What advice would I give to my younger self? Well, there are many times in my life that I felt lost in the past, and now with my wisdom, I would love to go back to a time when I was 22 and I was about to graduate. And I'd like to say to myself, it's okay to not know what you're going to do with your life. I went to a university that was very business orientated, and many graduates or many people in the final year already knew what they were going to do for their life, for their following years. They already found some graduate job packages with excellent perks, and it all sounded very glamorous, being suited and booted, working for a multinational and travel and all of those things, compared to, student life of, baked beans and toast and poverty, basically. And that didn't really appeal to me, although that was the reason why I went to the university I went to, because of the excellent graduate employment figures. But then when I got to that stage, I was like, I don't know about this. For me, my calling was to learn another language. I wanted to come and live in Spain, and I already speak French. So if I'm going to be a linguist, then having just one foreign language seemed to be not enough. So I wanted to come and live in Spain, and the job market in Spain is not the same as in London. But for me, I realized that I valued location more than working for a big multinational or something like that. So I went to Spain and I was an English teacher. And I remember when I was telling someone that I went to university with about my plans to become an English teacher. And I did that because it's kind of the easiest way to find a job in a foreign country if you don't speak the language. And when you have the TEFL certificate, you can use it anywhere in the world. And my teaching was not my passion at all, but it was easy. It's just an easy way to land in a country and get a job. So anyway, when I told this to one of my friends, and he said to me, "I thought you were ambitious. What are you going to do in Spain? Sell ice cream?" And I just thought, wow, that was the end of a friendship. I just felt very, very judged by him. Not that there's anything wrong with selling ice cream if that's what you want to do, but I didn't want to do that. But it just, I didn't really want to teach either. But for me, it was just a kind of like thing I wanted to do for a while to fund my life in Spain as I learned the language. And I was an English teacher for a year in a kind of language academy where the students were paying for their own classes. It was kind of general English, first certificate, advanced certificate, and some teenagers as well. So everyone I was teaching kind of had a basic grasp of English, and we could have debates. It wasn't just a basic, learner, beginner English like I am and you are. It was a bit more interesting than that. And then for the second year, when I was an English teacher in Madrid, I started giving business English classes, and I had a very, very amazing job actually. Many people I worked with had already kind of left the rat race in London and wanted to come to Spain to have a kind of nicer, more relaxed lifestyle. And But I hadn't lived that rat race, and I kind of craved it, if I'm honest. So anyway, I had this incredible job where I had taxis waiting for me outside my apartment at 7:30 in the morning to take me to a multinational, to actually give an English class to the CEO, to the presidents of the company, to really hire high advanced senior executives. And so I was working for all of these companies, like KPMG, British American Tobacco, Pepsi, lots of pharmaceutical companies. So I had a kind of like slice of the companies that my fellow students were going to work for, but I was a teacher. And I always envied the students I had. Actually, I was thinking, wow, you're working for a company who's prepared to invest in your learning, and you're getting free classes. Isn't that amazing? And but no one was really passionate or appreciative about this, the fact that they could get free English classes. And also when I went to these kind of industrial parks with these big companies, and you have to have a card to get through the security, and these big canteens where there's a lot of anonymity, everyone's an employee number. And I was thinking, wow, I would love to work in a place like this. But I was just a visiting teacher, so I never really got that experience. But what was fantastic is that as we were talking about work and different responsibilities, my job as an business English teacher allowed me to kind of understand the structure of companies and how they worked without having to do a business degree. I mean, I taught people of many different levels, and also HR people, CEOs, marketing, engineers. It was incredible. I mean, it was incredible to see how personalities could also vary. If you have a class of, let's say, sales or marketing people, it's very different from teaching, let's say, financial staff. It was very interesting to see how personality can kind of gravitate towards different skill sets in a company. That's a massive generalization, but that's something I did notice a lot. And what I learned from that was that the department that I most felt drawn to in a big company was the sales and marketing. I'm not kind of like a ruthless salesperson, but I like the idea of export sales and travel and using my languages, and also marketing for creativity. And when I left Madrid and I came to Barcelona, I was adamant that I was not going to teach again. So I became a salesperson in many different sectors. And at first I was just finding my feet. And I did lose some jobs after a few weeks or a few months. And I felt a lot of instability. And so I remember going to family weddings at this time in my life. And one of my aunties used to say to me, "Oh, you're changing jobs a lot." And I was thinking, you've no idea what I'm going through, trying to make things, make ends meet in a foreign country, and just trying to work as a single independent woman. And so people should be careful when they start judging other people based on their career, because I mean, it's just, everyone needs encouragement, not criticism. And she didn't mean it in a supportive way at all. And then when I started working in export sales, which was fantastic. At first I worked in a kind of industrial company creating machinery, which was really dull, but the tasks of the job I really liked. Dealing with people in France and in the UK and Holland. So I was speaking French all day. So it was amazing to actually practice my French while living in Spain. Then it got more interesting when I found, I was actually first of all export assistant for that. But then I found a job as the actual export sales person, which was so cool because I found a job in a printer. So I was working in a offset printer, printing hardback books, coffee table books. And I had to start a department from scratch. So I remember printing out this Yahoo business directory of publishers in London, and out of the page jumped erotic and fetish. And I was like, oh yeah. So I actually planned a business trip of 1 week going to meet very kind of sex magazines, fetish magazines, and very upper class erotic books and erotic art publishing houses. And it was just amazing, actually. And that's kind of what inspired me to go down the erotic route. I loved sitting in meetings and having a very kind of matter-of-fact discussion about books with titles such as, oral sex guide or whatever. And people were saying these terms as if it was the most normal thing in the world. And I remember thinking, this is what I really want to do. It was a crazy, crazy dream at first. And I did I was an erotic model on the side as a hobby. But I never imagined that I would actually end up becoming an erotic content creator. But then after in print, it's very difficult. I was in that industry at a very difficult time because the digital world was kind of taking over, and also Spain wasn't always like kind of the cheap country to print anymore. There were other countries, for example, such as Poland, that were cheaper, and also China. So I kind of gradually lost my clients. So I was coming from a dwindling sector. And also, if you're in sales and you're going to a company every day, and you're not having the figures that you're expected, you don't kind of feel very good about yourself. And I think sales is also the perfect bridge between being an employee and being freelance, being self-employed. Because you do have a commission, and you do have this. When for me, I kind of arrived late every day because my clients used to phone me on my mobile, and I had this kind of feeling of I don't need to go by the rules so much because I'm bringing all this cash into the company. You know what I mean? And then I worked in luxury real estate. So I went from a very industrial work environment in factories, except for the times when I was traveling and going to book fairs, which was amazing. So I was going from factories to actually one of the nicest parts of Barcelona, and I was in charge of a very nice area called the Born in Barcelona, which is an area where many people wanted to live. And I was doing viewings in luxury real estate from Monday to Friday, and I had VIP clients. I mean, they were looking for a pied-à-terre in Barcelona as an investment. No one was buying with mortgages; it was all cash. And I used to end up going for lunch and dinner with some of my clients because they were just such interesting people. Whenever I had a client, I would be Googling them after, and I was like, oh my God, do you know who that guy was? It was really, really fascinating. But I was in real estate at the worst time to be in real estate, which was 2007, 2008, 2009. And it got to the point where my life was a bit of a massive contrast because I could barely feed myself or pay the rent. And at the same time, I was dealing with absolute luxury at work. So I was living this massive contrast. And that's what really kind of propelled me or inspired me to become a blogger in the end. I just was very inspired by my clients. I thought, if they can do it, I can do it. So instead of having the self-doubt I had, they gave me a lot of self-belief. And so throughout this time, I was, changing jobs all the time, from teaching to export assistant, to export sales, to real estate agent. And I was always working really hard for other people, and to the point where I was burnt out. And I used to be so tired at the weekends. I used to wake up at 2 p.m. on a Saturday because I was just exhausted from the week. And whatever I did, all the efforts I made were not being appreciated by my bank account or anything like that, or by the companies I was working for. So I just felt very like the world was against me almost. There was a time before I went to export sales, that I did think about leaving Barcelona and going to London and getting a serious job. But then I just felt so attached to Barcelona that I was really kind of willing to try and make it work. But then when I set up my blog, which was not an easy thing to do, I mean, to actually start a sex blog, I was, very worried about what people would think of me, how people would judge me, which did happen, not as badly as I thought, but I did end up having to eliminate some people from my life just for their negative judgment of me, or just kind of, I say shadow banned people who I stopped engaging with too much, because it was always negative whenever I spoke of what I was doing. They were always kind of putting down what I was doing, my endeavors. But very soon after I started my blog, venusohara.org, in 2009, I started to get collaborations, such as writing a book with Erica Lust. I started to collaborate with Spanish media outlets. I wrote 2 more books. So I had a very kind of like sporadic up and down with salaries. But But I didn't really have a kind of business plan when I started my blog, and things kind of developed for me in a very organic way. So as I got more well known, I started to receive different emails in my inbox with different proposals that kind of led me down different paths. And that's how, for example, I got my media collaborations, because someone had found me, and then I was literally offered columns that I didn't even ask for. I was offered books that I didn't even ask to write, which was amazing. So these things that they just kind of landed in my lap helped me confirm to me that I was on the right path. And then when I was very popular in Spanish media, then I started to receive sex toys for free. And then people were asking me for advertising back on my own personal blog. So it was everything was kind of like developing in a very organic way. At first, I was making reviews of sex toys in Spanish for local shops. Then it became distributors. Then I started doing content in English and making a YouTube channel, and then dealing with global brands. And then I went global as well. And then now I'm doing so many different things. But the thing is, when I was changing jobs all the time before being a content creator, I felt that I was kind of reinventing myself or becoming a new person. It felt very draining to try and kind of give all my efforts into one thing, or make a lot of effort in one thing, and then it has to be something else and something else. I was kind of like looking for something that's going to fulfill me. Whereas now, when I change my offerings, I don't feel as though I'm reinventing myself or that I am becoming a different person. It's kind of like adding to something I'm already building. So I do feel that, because I do think we have our job or our profession is very much linked to our self-identity, and maybe maybe too much sometimes, but there's a lot of people's self-worth they think about. Maybe their job can be linked to that, and it was definitely for me before I became a content creator, whereas now I can add new ideas and new business ideas to my offering. I don't feel as though I'm becoming a different person or reinventing myself. I'm just adding to something that I love. And yes, I'm always open to new opportunities. And speaking of new opportunities, I mean, in the last few years, I have been a product development consultant as well as a reviewer. I've been designing, and now obviously with this podcast, I've been doing voiceovers. I'm also a commercial actress. I've been in many adverts for big multinational brands as well. And my latest endeavor or new project is actually, I've been giving lots of workshops here in Barcelona about sex magic, which is using sexual energy to manifest. And this is something that I discovered 4 years ago, and it's something that I believe that has really changed my life. I've become more stable and more abundant as a result, and it's just been absolutely fantastic. 4 years ago, I was in a moment of a lot of self-doubt. I had, because freelance life is a lot of ups and downs, and it's very unpredictable, and income can be very unpredictable as well. So I was at a time in my life where I was living in a penthouse apartment by the sea, which sounds great, but I had all these sex toys in boxes, and I didn't even have furniture. I didn't even have a table to sit at because it was tiny, and the only table I did have was my messy desk, which was more important than having somewhere where I could eat. And to kind of get the clutter off the desk to eat was every day or for every meal was just not happening. And yeah, so it was a lot of self-doubt, and I was always cold, I was always hungry, and I had no sofa for a long time. The bed I was sleeping on was disgusting. It was this old mattress and no pillow. I used to fold a blanket, and then I was at a moment of crisis, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I deserve this life I have created for myself. And I went down the self-help route. This was in March 2018, and I discovered the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which is the biggest selling success book of all time. Amazing book. And I was very surprised to find that there is a chapter called The Mystery of Sex Transmutation. And I was like, why is there a chapter about sex in a book about success? I was very intrigued about that. And sex transmutation is about transmuting your sexual energy and harnessing it and having a different outlet for it. So let's say not having an orgasm or not kind of indulging in sexual activity, instead of kind of like using your breath or meditation or thoughts to actually use the energy and then focus on the project that you would like to work on in you know, something non-sexual. So having a non-sexual expression of this built up energy in your body. And I thought, wow, that's so interesting. So I went down this kind of rabbit hole of discovering more about sex transmutation, and I thought that sounds great, but I'm a sex toy reviewer, so I don't want to be really denying my orgasm. So then I discovered something else called sex magic, which is a similar concept of using sexual energy to manifest, but with orgasm. And I thought that sounds exactly what I would like to do. So I started practicing sex magic, and now, I mean, I managed to pay off all my debts. I managed to have lots of success. I managed to change apartments, get a decent bed, get tables, and all this kind of things that I was struggling to get before. So now I'm living a lot more comfortably, and as a result. And there are many things that I have manifested on a personal level as well: health, clients, business, and holidays. I mean, I never even imagined I could go on retreats or be a spiritual tourist before, but now I've done many retreats and kind of spiritual holidays since I've been doing sex magic. And I use this tool every single time that I use a toy. So for me, the process of masturbation is something very sacred and holy. Because I mean, people think of masturbation and they just think of like just, you know, rubbing one out to porn, which is so not what I'm about at all. For me, it's more about an experience of connecting with the divine. It's a cosmic experience, and it's kind of like for me to center on something I want to manifest in life. And I really focus on that. And I also focus on, doesn't mean I'm taking the pleasure away, not at all, but there's a lot more going on in my head during the process of masturbation now. And I've read all of the books the books I can find on sex magic. There are definitely some more I can be reading. And now I'm offering coaching on sex magic, and I've had a few clients already. And the people I've taught about sex magic, they are kind of they really do enjoy my teachings, and they put it into practice straight away. And they've also got great stories of their own manifestations, because I like to think of it as a form of consensual brainwashing. It's about kind of like helping with your mindset, about to kind of focus on what it is you desire and believe that you can have it. But there are other things which are also very important in any type of manifestation, which is taking action, and also surrender, which is very, very important, not to be too attached to the things that you want to manifest. So my life is very different now, thanks to sex magic. And I'm really glad I went down the route of not caring what other people thought of me, and following my dreams to become a sexual wellness content creator. And now I'm kind of getting more into one-on-one coaching space. I'm creating an online course, and I'm also getting into the wellness space as well, because I do believe that sexuality packaged as part of a healthy lifestyle makes it more digestible and even more powerful. So that's my journey as a multi-potentialite. I'm going to be speaking to Emilie Wapnick, the author of How to Be Everything, and she is an expert on multipotentiality, which is having many interests. And when I found this book, I really felt identified, having all these different things going on in my career, and now I feel like normal, which is fantastic. So let's find out more. Do you want to talk to me? I'm offering 60-minute sessions on Zoom. I offer a safe space for you to contact me to discuss any of the topics that I talk about on my website, YouTube channel, and on this podcast. Please note that I'm not a therapist. Our calls are not a replacement for therapy. Here is a list of topics that I will happily discuss with you. Sexual wellness product consulting, self-love mentoring, sex magic coaching and guidance, content creation brainstorming, accountability partnership, life in Barcelona, Spain, and how to veganize your life. If you'd like to book a call with me, please visit my website, venusohara.org, for more information. Okay. Emilie, welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. Thank you so much for taking part in this interview today. I'm very happy to have you here. And you are a multipotentialite. Can you tell us what that means?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me. This is really fun. Yeah, so a multi-potentialite is someone with many interests and creative pursuits. It's someone who, has trouble being put into one category, like someone who wants to do many things and be many things and explore many things.
Okay, so when people ask you, what do you do? How do you answer?
It kind of depends who's asking. Um, and it depends who's asking and why. So if someone's just being polite, or if it's like, I'm like crossing the border and the person there's like, asking what would I do? I'll usually say I'm a writer because that's just like simple, neat. But if it's someone who's genuinely interested in getting to know me and we're having a whole conversation, then I will say I run an online community and they'll be like, oh, what's that about? And then I'll talk about Putty Like and the different work I do, and I might mention my book. And yeah, usually, I don't have like a great 15-second elevator pitch. I just prefer to have a conversation if possible.
You said that was one of the most feared questions of multi-potentialites in your
Yeah.
book. Yeah. Yeah. Because then I think people ask me that as well, because I'm as a multi-potentialite. When I say I'm a
Mm,
writer, then the next question is, what do you write about? And then it kind of
right.
goes on. Do
Yeah.
you
Well,
find
people
that?
ask me what I write about, and then I say, oh, I write about people who have many passions. And then they're
Oh,
like,
okay.
ooh, tell me, so that also kind of leads into the topic. But of course, there's like other things that I do also. And sometimes I bring those things up and sometimes I don't. It kind of just depends. Yeah.
So speaking of your online community, it's called the Puttyverse. Is that correct?
It is, yeah.
Can you tell us all about that and how it works?
Sure. Okay, so there's two websites. There's Putty Like and the Puttyverse. On Putty Like, you can get lots of free articles about what it means to be a multi-potentialite, how to thrive in the world as a multipod. And then if you want more support, you can join the Puttyverse. And the Puttyverse is a private community. We've got a very active forum. We've got events every week. Sometimes there's like 20 events on our calendar because we encourage our members to create their own events, and it's a community of multi-potentialites, people with all kinds of interests. And but yeah, basically we support each other. We do workshops, we do co-working, which we call those focus parties, where we're all kind of working on different projects and we set timers. And you have accountability matchmaking, where you can get paired up with another multi-potentialite and you can be your accountability buddies and check in about your projects. And it's just kind of like, it's a community for support to help people who want to embrace their many passions and build a life around doing multiple things.
I saw that it's quite well. It's not so easy to become a member of this the Puttyverse. I saw that you can't just pay and become a member. It's a bit more complicated. Can you tell us what the process is and why you created it this way?
Well, so we open the doors once a month
Uh huh.
to new members. So, I mean, it is like you do just go and pay and become a member, but you have to do it during the 2-day window. And you can get on the email wait list if you go to theputtyverse.com, and then we'll send you an email a week before the doors open and then when the doors open.
Everyone's
And we
rushing.
do it this way. Yeah, we do it this way just mostly to kind of make the space feel safer for our existing members so that we don't have like new people popping in all the time. And it's nice to be able to just like rally around the new cohort coming in and welcome everyone at the same time. And a bunch of people are posting their introductions in the forum at the same time. So I think, both for the people joining, just so that they can get the support from our team and from the community, and for our existing members, it works well to have just this like concentrated period of time every month where new people join.
And do you kind of make sure that they are multi potentialites, or does it just naturally attract multi potentialites?
We don't, no, we don't.
No. No.
But anyone can join the community as long as they abide by our community guidelines. We've got guidelines that we wrote and got feedback from the community, and so as long as people are being kind and respectful and inclusive, I don't really care if they're a multi-potentialite or not. I mean, if they're there and they're getting something out of it and they're interacting, if they don't identify as a multipod, yeah, I don't care.
Okay.
And obviously they're getting something out of it. So, um, no, we don't like quiz people first to
Okay.
make them apply or anything.
There's a lot of pressure on people to kind of find their purpose and fit in a box, with work. And I had the same issues myself with my own journey. And when other people find what they're doing, mid-20s or just after university, and it can be very, you don't know what to do after having so much guidance from university. And I guess being a multi-potentialite, having so many different interests, well, it was like this for me. It was very daunting and kind of a bit, I felt I didn't really find my place in the world. And I guess, was it like that for you? And what was the moment like when you discovered you were a multi-potentialite and it could be your biggest asset? What was that moment like?
Yeah, it was definitely a lot like that for me too. I think I felt a lot of anxiety, all growing up in my teens and in my early 20s, where I would think I found my thing, and I would get really good at it actually, and I'd start pursuing it professionally, and then I would sort of be like, oh, okay, I kind of got what I came for. Like this is getting a little bit boring, and I want to explore something new. But every time I did that, I would feel this like tremendous guilt and shame, and I'd just be like, what's wrong with me? Like, why can't I just pick something and stick with it forever? Like, and I think it was, so I was in law school. I finished law school, but I didn't want to become a lawyer. I reached that end point again for myself where I was like, I don't think that's right for me. And I was exploring the idea of starting something of my own. And I took an online class on like building a business, coming up with a business idea, and I got stuck in the second module, which was all about choosing a niche. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, I was making all these lists, I was journaling, and I was like, I can't choose a niche because there's like all these different things I'm interested in. And then I realized like, maybe that's the problem that I could try and solve. Like, maybe there are other people out there who are doing many things and have like found a way to make it work professionally, and are happy and don't feel this tremendous sense of guilt and anxiety and are just like embracing it and living that life. So I started blogging about that topic and writing about my experiences and talking to other people about their experiences. And I conducted a whole bunch of interviews for my book, and tried to, just kind of shared what I was learning. And that's how Putty Like started. And I think it was through that process that I came to accept my own multipotentiality, just through seeing other people who are like happy and successful, and also just making the choice to like stop feeling bad about it and start embracing it. And then I could see like the gifts that it brings. I could use my web design skills for this project. I could use some of the writing skills and like writing good arguments that I learned in law school, in articles on my website, and like I was just like using all these skills that I learned in different places, to build this community, this business. And I was like, okay, maybe this is a thing that multi-potentialites do. We like draw from different backgrounds, different areas, and we use those skills in, unconventional ways, but that's like a huge asset. So yeah, that's kind of my process.
That's amazing. It's amazing going from the negative to being a big asset. It's such an incredible realization, I suppose. Yeah.
And I think that's like a lot of people experience that when they come to Putty Like, or when they see my TED Talk, just this feeling of relief. And I hope to be able to provide more than that, like support and resources and all this stuff. But if all they get is just a feeling of relief and like some self-acceptance, then that's wonderful.
So in your book, How to Be Everything, I love it. It's one of my friends who's actually a member of your website recommended this to me. And I bought it straight away because I completely identified with the concept. And also you mentioned 4 types of multipotentialite here. Would you like to tell us what they are?
Sure. And I will say there are 4 work models, and people, they're not types of multipotentialites, just because I don't want people to be like, which type am I? And
Okay.
feel like they need to put themselves into a box. you can move between these work models, you can blend them, but they are like a starting place, and I wanted to provide that. So when I was interviewing people for the book, my main question was like, how do you structure your career to get the variety and the money and the meaning that you need in your life? And I found that, people did it in all kinds of different ways. I met multipotentialites who were entrepreneurs and artists, and multipotentialites who were doctors and had more conventional careers. And I was like, okay, how do I make sense of this? And what I was able to do is kind of fit everyone more or less into one of these 4 work models. So I'll go through the 4 models. So we've got the group hug approach, and this is where it's like all of your interests coming together in a big group hug.
It's a nice name.
Yeah. So this is where you find one job or a business that you own, perhaps, where you get to wear many different hats and do many different things. I interviewed a woman named Margot who works at a company where they let her move between departments, and she's been there for 20 years or something. And the reason it stayed interesting is that she's done a lot of different things, some web design, some video editing, a whole bunch of things. So that's the first model, is to kind of do multiple things in one entity, whether that's a job or your own business, something like that. The second work model is what I call the slash approach. And this is where you have multiple part-time jobs and or businesses. So this is someone who's and this is the person I interviewed, who is a freelance marketer / she works at a nonprofit for a few days a week / she's an aerial silks artist. This is the person who's a programmer / yoga instructor / accountant. This is, so people who use this model, each of their slashes, each of their revenue streams, for different reasons. They use a different part of their brain. They, bring out a different side of their personality. But they've told me that they wouldn't want to do any one of them full time. So the part-time nature is very intentional, and they get that variety by kind of cycling through these different work projects over the course of their week. And then the third commonly used work model is the Einstein approach, and I called it this because Albert Einstein worked at the patent office, so he had this government job. It was very stable, full-time, but it was notoriously slow-paced. So it allowed him to develop his theories on the side after work. And so this, some people will do this. Some people will have a stable 9 to 5 that kind of provides the resources that they need, but leaves them with enough free time and money to pursue their passions on the side. So one of the people I interviewed for this section was a guy named Charlie Harper, who is an IT director. But then when he leaves the office, he goes to a cappella group and he performs in musical theater, and he's also a carpenter, and when we spoke, he had just built a boat. So, the benefit of this approach, well, one of the benefits is that you don't need to monetize every single passion, every single thing that you become interested in. You can just kind of explore freely and know that your full-time job is supporting those different passions. Of course, that work needs to provide you with the resources you need, and not you can't take up all of your time. It needs to leave you with enough free time to explore those things. And that's where the term good enough job comes in, which I think is a Barbara Sher term that I used in that section of my book. And then we've got the Phoenix approach. And this is someone who dives into one field for a number of years and builds a career in that area. And then at a certain point, they transition and they start something new in a totally different space. And people who use this model will often explore the next thing a little bit on the side, just while they're still doing the first thing, to make that transition a bit smoother. But yeah, I've seen this when I've interviewed multipotentialites. Someone will be, one thing for 10 years, and then they'll switch and they'll start a whole new career in a different area. And that's another way to make it work.
So would you say that you were a phoenix then in the past?
I don't don't know. It's hard to say. Right now, I'm definitely a group hug.
Okay, because I think you talked about that, about the different, there's like a diagram of those different paths that you were on and how
Yeah,
your different
yeah. I
interests.
mean, I do tend to. I'm more of a sequential multi-potentialite. I think I tend to dive into fewer things for a longer period, as opposed to being a simultaneous multipod where I've got like 20 things that I'm equally interested in all the time. So I think that does lend itself more to the Phoenix thing. I'd say I'm like a mix between Phoenix and group hug.
So maybe your journey is a bit similar to mine, because I became a group hug like when I started. My blog is 13 years today is like my blog anniversary. But as soon as I made that decision, everything kind of came together, because I was, a writer and I'm a podcaster. What else am I doing? YouTuber, and I'm also writing for different media outlets in England and in Spain. So I've had all these different things that have come together, because it's all about the similar topics like lifestyle, sexual wellness, and I just felt like this was really, I don't know, I feel like more my identity. I don't know how I would describe it. It just feels like the right path, whereas before it was absolute confusion, because I was a reluctant phoenix, just losing jobs after a while, or contracts were over. It's like, what do I do now, And wanting to live in a place like Barcelona, you can't just go for anything. It's not maybe as good as some other job markets in other places in the world. So it was really difficult sometimes to... So I think we all define ourselves, although many people buy our jobs, and when you find that your job is not valuing you, it really hurts your ego, So
Yeah. And I think that is one benefit of the group hug approach, is it does feel like you're getting to express the breadth of who you are in what you do, and there's something very satisfying about that. I feel that too. I feel kind of like my online community is like Putty Like is kind of like a digital reflection of me, which feels really nice, feels very authentic, and it's a good feeling.
I really liked how you addressed some of the challenges of multipotentialites, because one of the challenges I have, I'm sure you probably have as well, is the overwhelm of wanting to do so many things. Actually, I think multipotentialites should be CEOs of like huge organizations, because you kind of know how a lot of little things work, and it'd be nice just to kind of be the decision maker and not have to do the grind. What do you think?
Yeah, I think a lot of CEOs probably, maybe most of them, are multi-potentialites. Like, I think you kind of need to be one to run a business. Yeah. So what do I think about overwhelm?
Yeah, because that's quite common. I think with any. I mean, I admire people who are slash a lot, because it takes a lot of dedication after you've done your job that's not your passion, to then follow your passion. I remember I had a few days when I was, because I'm a qualified English teacher as well, and I've always had that qualification in my pocket whenever I've needed it or someone's asked me, and I wanted some quick money. And then I just felt exhausted, because it's about energy as well. I just feel like, just time for money in something I'm not interested in. And then to try and find the energy to do something I am interested in that's maybe it's a bit slow to get off the ground at first. It just takes an extra effort, So I really admire people who are that, maybe the Einstein approach. And the slash as well, you're dividing your energy into different things.
Yeah, I think, especially with the slash approach, having things that are very different from one another can help. I think it's actually, it can feel refreshing to go and do something totally different. But if you're doing a lot of the same kind of work, that can get pretty exhausting, from what I've heard. And that's been my experience too. Yeah, I mean, with the overwhelm, there's a few things you can do. I mean, like focusing on small steps, especially if you're working on something like a big, exciting project. Sometimes that can feel really overwhelming, because you've got the resistance, you've got the what if this doesn't work, or all those like emotional things, fear of failure, fear of success, all of that. So breaking it down into small steps can really help. Getting some support from, whether it's a community or a group or just a friend who is, you're checking in on each other. I have a little mastermind group, a few friends that I've been working with for like almost a decade now, and we check in and we set goals, and so that kind of support can really help. And then when you're planning your day, I like to have a very short to-do list, and then if I get extra things done, then that's awesome. I can like celebrate that, but it can be really disheartening to have like a long list, and then you just like get a few things done. I prefer to set my expectations for myself low, and then like if I get extra things done, cool, that's great. Bonus.
So about outsourcing, that's a great way to resolve some of the issues with multipotentialites.
Yeah, outsourcing's great. Of course, you need to make sure you find the right people, and that might require training people. And but yeah, that can be awesome. I mean, I've got a great team, but it's taking time to find the right people, and
That's the hard part.
process. Yeah,
Definitely. So, how do you think the pandemic and all how has that affected multipotentialites? Do you think everyone has had to become one because as a consequence?
I don't know about everyone. I think probably, I've heard that a lot of people when the pandemic started were like, okay, what do I really want right now? Like this is kind of a reset in some ways. And so more people have been embracing their multipotentiality. Certainly more people have been joining our community. And I've seen that in a major way. I don't know if everyone has had to become a multipod, but if they want to be one, I think that this is kind of a necessity. Like people are looking at their different skills and saying, what can I do? How can I make this work? And everyone's working online now, so that's a lot more accepted, and there's more opportunities there for creativity, for distributing your own content if you want to do that. There's a great research paper that came out about how the pandemic has created more of a need for, they don't call us multipotentialites, but like creative polymaths, or I forget what they call us exactly, but it's like a straight up academic paper, and I thought it was really cool that came out.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have had to adapt to things that I was living before the pandemic, such as, that self-discipline and working from home and spending a lot of time alone, like a lot of freelancers do. And it's something that must have been a big shock to the system for people who are not used to that.
Yeah, I mean, shock to the system for everyone, but yeah.
So tell us more about the writing process of your book as a multipotentialite. How was it? How was the process?
It was good. My editor, not all editors will do this, I've learned, but my editor was cool with me sending her a chapter at a time.
Okay.
And that really helped. So I just I had deadlines. I just focused on one chapter at a time. And that made it feel a lot more manageable than trying to write the whole thing and deliver the whole thing. But yeah, it's been a while now, but it was a pretty positive experience. And I don't know. I don't think that is always the case when people write a book. But I think the key was really breaking it up into small chunks.
So is that your answer to a lot of things then with multipotentialism, is just kind of breaking it down into small chunks in general with work? And
at least that is what's worked for me, and I see that work with other people. I think that, when it comes to productivity techniques, there's so many tools and tricks, and everyone's so different. So you need to kind of pick and choose what works for you. But yeah, I'm a fan of breaking things down, and I use a timer a lot. I'll set if I'm having trouble getting started on something, I'll set a 5-minute timer, and I'll say just go nuts for 5 minutes, just work on it for 5 minutes, and if you want to stop at the end of the 5 minutes, you can. But usually that's enough to break the ice, and then I'm in the flow, and I'm okay, I can keep going. So yeah, I guess I do tend to break things down into small chunks.
One thing I liked about in your book as well is how you have this line about people who value stability with flexibility. I can't remember what the two things were. Stability and I can't remember where it was. But I really identified with that because I can't remember where it is now. Because I do think people who want stability, they're looking at or it's not simultaneous sequential. It was something else about people who value the flexibility of having your own time, and then the stability of having a paid job, or the uncertainty. It's very easy. That's kind of one of those challenges, and I think that each model can attract different types of people. I see that a lot in Barcelona. There's a big expat community of digital nomads. And then you get some people who have, expat jobs, some of the people who are life coaches at 28. There's a whole range of people. But I think for me, I definitely value that flexibility of time, because I think that's a huge asset of that we have. And other people want to have that salary every month or that contract.
Yeah. And it can change over the course of our lives depending on what's going on and family and circumstances, and we can value different, like stability or flexibility or both, and it's just a matter of finding that balance. But yeah, I think that the Einstein approach in particular really appeals to people who value stability and just want to know that their income is coming in every month, it's there, they can just do their job, and they're happy and comfortable viewing that work as the thing that funds their passion projects and all the other things that they're excited about. And of course, like, it's important that work be enjoyable. Like, people who are happy with this model, that those are the people that I was interviewing that I really wanted to hear from, not people that like hated their job and wish they could get out. So yeah, even if it's not like it's not the dream job, it's still something enjoyable. Maybe it's something where you get to learn at work a little bit, and I don't know, sometimes people get to bring in their different skills, but yeah, that Einstein approach definitely provides a bit more stability.
So your TED Talk's been very successful, and why some of us don't have one true calling. So how was that process of making a TED Talk?
Oh, that was cool. That was a really exciting process and project. I wanted to get into public speaking because it was something that made me very anxious, like for many of us. But I felt like the message is more important than like my anxiety, and also I just wanted to do it for myself, just to like show myself I could do it. So I did a bunch of research to find what TEDx events were happening nearby, and there was one happening a few hours away in Bend, Oregon. I was living in Portland at the time, and I applied, and then they called me for an interview, and then they told me I got the spot, and so then I set out to like write this thing, and it's hard to like. They were like, "You've got 12 minutes," and I was like,
"Oh wow!"
Okay. But I got a ton of feedback from different coaches and friends and colleagues that I trust, and I practiced it so much. I mean, in the weeks leading up to the talk, I rehearsed this thing like 3 or 4 times a day. Like when I was walking to the coffee shop, I do my TED Talk. I did it in front of a bunch of different people to just try and get comfortable. I sort of treated it like a monologue or something. Like I had the whole thing memorized, and I knew I was going to be so nervous that I just wanted to like know the words and know what I was saying and feel very confident that I could do this because I practiced so much. And it also felt like a big deal. Like if I got this right, it could make a huge impact, and that is what happened. So I'm really, it was a really cool project. And then actually getting up there and doing it was very exciting. And I wanted to I got this advice from a 16-year-old who he did like it was like a magic show TED Talk thing earlier in the day with his friend, and that was really cute. But he came off stage and he was like, I don't even really remember it because it went by so fast and I just was so nervous. And I thought to myself, like, that's like really good advice. Like I don't want to feel like I'm just trying to get through it, and I want to like enjoy this moment because it's going to be a big moment. So I tried to do that. I tried to go out on stage and like take a deep breath and like enjoy those 12 minutes. It went well. It was a really cool experience. Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating. So I'm actually doing Toastmasters now. Do you know Toastmasters?
I did that briefly as I was like trying to get into public speaking. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Are you enjoying it?
I started about 3 years ago. I gave a talk in Soho House in Barcelona, a private members club, and I rehearsed a lot. And then it went really well, like a 15-minute thing, but I had notes and slides which help a lot for those situations. And then I went to Toastmasters and I did one table topics, like the improvised speech for 1 minute on food, which is my second favorite subject. And I froze and I realized I had a lot to learn. So now it's been 3 years. I do want to give my own TED talk, but I just feel the last talk I gave, I went blank on stage twice. That's kind of like set me back a little bit. But I think also Toastmasters has this kind of like this style that I don't think is compatible with TED. You have to kind of take, cherry pick some of the tips that they give you, because some of it's just too rehearsed and too robotic. Whereas if you're speaking from the heart, it's not really compatible, But I think it's good to get on stage and have that, just to get used to being on stage and not being your own obstacle, because that's one thing that I think everyone has to deal with. You have this big message and you have to kind of get out of your own way and just deliver it.
Yeah, it's not about you.
Yeah,
it's about the impact of the message, and it's about people listening. Yeah, it's hard. And my mind has gone blank. I did quite a bit of public speaking after the TED Talk. And I was a keynote speaker at this blogger conference in Australia, and my mind went blank at that thing, and I just made a joke about it.
Well, that's amazing.
And my mind has just gone blank, and I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say next, and people laughed, and then I remembered where I was, and I just kept going.
Yeah, I think there are amazing tricks that you can do. I mean, I just said to everyone, I'm nervous, which was the worst thing to say. But I mean, now now it's happened. I hope it doesn't happen on the TED stage or something like that. That would be just awful. I'm sure they would edit it out, but still, it's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, I think, laughing at yourself, also, if people get it, they understand how scary it is to be up there, and it can bring this because of humanity and just compassion. I think if you kind of acknowledge it and move on. At least that was what I tried to do.
And you worked with speech coaches as well?
I worked with, I don't know if I'd call them speech coaches. There was a woman I worked with who was kind of a presence coach, which more or less was the same thing. It was kind of just about calming down your nervous system when you're in those situations. And I did a workshop with her. And then they gave you a little coach for the TEDx events. So there was, I don't know what his credentials were, but he was helpful. He gave me some good feedback on my talk, and that was nice.
Oh, that's amazing. So it's a huge achievement. And so it had so many views as well, hasn't it? It's done really well.
Yeah. Wow. It's been viewed, 8 million times or something,
wow.
Which is crazy. But that's the thing with the TED Talk is it can have a really big impact. So I was just focus, we can't over prepare for this thing. It's just that important. But yeah, I feel very grateful that my message resonated so far and wide.
Definitely. So how do you see the vision or how do you envision the future of multipotentialites in general? Do you think it's, because I mean, in the past, I think our parents' generation, perhaps it was always, do a degree, get a job in that's related, and work at that somewhere until you retire, I mean,
obviously that's broken. That's gone. That's long gone. I think, we're in this new chaotic world of work. And so multipotentialites have an advantage there because we are adaptable, we are curious, we do want to learn about multiple things. And I think you just kind of need to find your own way. You need to craft your own career. There's no one model out there. I mean, I try and provide a few models that can help you think about how to structure your career. But ultimately, you need to kind of put it together for yourself, put those puzzle pieces together. And it can be really, really satisfying when you do. And also, I think getting comfortable with the fact that things change, and even if you find that perfect multipotentialite blend of your passions and you're getting paid well, and 10 years down the road, you might want something totally different. And so kind of getting used to that idea that things are always evolving, and also learning to trust yourself that you'll figure it out, and getting the support that you need in terms of other people. All those things. But I would love to see more multipotentialites kind of embracing their many passions and being unapologetically multipods, doing their many things, and yeah, just kind of like thriving in the world and not feeling bad about it, about who we are.
So do you offer that service as a coach then? How kind of creating someone else's multi-potentialite model?
I have in the past. I'm not currently doing any coaching. I have like a coach recommendation page for people, coaches I know who work specifically with multi-potentialites and are multipods themselves. And you can find that on Putty Like. But yeah, I'm not doing any coaching right now. I'm kind of figuring out what's next for me. I'm taking this astrology program, and so I'm like, ooh, maybe I want to like blend some of that into my coaching. And I'm also working on a television script and projects that I'm kind of pursuing. So yeah, but Putty Like continues to thrive and grow. We've got a great community. Yeah.
Oh, astrology is so interesting. Such an interesting topic.
Yeah, I'm finishing up an 8-month program next month, and I'm working on, actually you might be interested in this. I'm working on my final project. It's about relationships and astrology.
Oh, wow.
And I've got a survey where I ask people about their experiences in relationships, and I ask for their birth data, and I'm going to try and look for like markers in the birth charts that correspond to different types of experiences. And I'm really excited to dig into that data and draw some conclusions or like interesting insights that might come out of that. So, yeah.
Someone recommended the app CoStar. Do you know CoStar?
Yeah, CoStar is fun.
So what are you going to say? You think it would be really...
Oh, I was just going to say, I would love to like, I don't know, I'm playing with the idea of doing some kind of like career coaching mixed with astrology where we look at your chart and what it says about different strengths. And then we also talk about like what work models might work and your different passions. I'm not sure what that might look like, but I'm playing with ideas like that.
I think people love that. I think anything that people love, just kind of affirmation of who they are, or just kind of, you know, some time from an external figure just to tell them what they are. You know, I think people love doing that kind of get to know yourself quizzes and numerology and
yeah, that's one of the best things about astrology is it feels very affirming. It's like, oh, even if there's like difficult things, you're like, oh, okay, that's why this has been a challenge in my life. Like I see it right there, and that can be really helpful to both the strengths and some of the challenges.
Yeah, I'm a Gemini, so I think I'm a natural multi-potentialite because Geminis are very kind of all over the place in different areas, you know.
Gemini is the classic multi-potentialite archetype. Yeah.
What about you?
I'm an Aries sun. So I like to start a lot of creative projects. I'm a Taurus moon, so I like some stability emotionally, and then I'm a Virgo rising. So the Virgo is a mutable sign. I'm like good at a bunch of different things, and I like to like do a lot of different things. That's for me where the multi-potentiality comes in. And I've also got a 10th house. I don't know how much you know about this.
Oh yeah, I mean I know CoStar. So.
But my 10th house is Gemini.
Oh wow.
Or at least in whole sign houses, it coincides with Gemini, and I've got my North Node there. So like my kind of like public persona is like that Gemini archetype. That's like how I'm known in the world. It makes total sense.
Yeah, I'm a Gemini sun, and then the moon and rising is both Scorpio. So that's kind of like, nice. It's like communication from the Gemini and multi-potentiality. But I, for me, like Scorpio is related to sexuality, but it's also everyone I know who's a Scorpio is really hard worker. I mean, they really get into their, maybe not multi-potentialites, but they're very hard workers. Yeah.
Yeah. Scorpio likes to dig deep.
Yeah.
And like go to like dark places, or just get down to the core of things. And so I think that like a fixed sign like that pairs really nicely with the Gemini sun, because the Gemini sun can kind of like scan the horizon and explore different things, but then when you find something you're into, you've got that like Scorpio energy to like dig deep into that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it helps me understand myself, definitely. Okay, so a few quick questions. What's the book that changed your life?
Ooh. The book that changed my life. I really loved Amanda Palmer's book, The Art of Asking.
Okay, asking for manifestation or for asking for things in life.
It's kind of about being an artist and getting comfortable, like accepting gifts from other people and like asking for what you need. And I'm not doing a great job of describing it, but it's a wonderful book. It's sort of like a mix between self-help and also like a lot of personal narrative. And she's a great storyteller. I love that book. Yeah, The Art of Asking.
Okay. And do you have a phrase or affirmation or a quote that you live by?
Ooh. Not off the top of my head. Maybe I do, but I feel like if I can't think of it, then I probably don't.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, like, there's different values that are important to me. Authenticity is really important to me. I have a very hard time being fake, and I have a very hard time when other people are fake. So, like, yeah, I don't know if it's like I can put that into
Be yourself, kind of be authentic.
That sort of idea, in all of its complexity.
And what do you do to relax at the end of the day after your multipotentialite brain? Because it must be all over the place. It must be very... Yeah.
I mean, I guess just hanging out with my wife is really fun and relaxing for me.
And do you find it easy to have like weekends off? And do you schedule your time so you make sure?
It's been a process. It's very easy when you are self-employed to work all the time. And all the time / none of the time. It's just like, so I've gotten better at having boundaries. And when we had our son, we've got a 7-month-old, and when we had him, we were both self-employed. Well, Valerie works for Putty Like, and so we drew out a schedule, like this is when this person's working, this is when this person's working, and then the other person would be with the baby. And we have, right now we're at her mom's place in Portland for the summer, but back home we've got like a shed outside that we've converted into an office. So like having that separation, the office is not in the house, that's been really helpful. And then I started giving myself weekends. I think having a kid really forced me to be better about boundaries, and I'm very grateful for that.
Definitely, that's something I struggled with for the first few years because it was so much fun what I was doing. I just working 7 days a week, and then now it's like, no, what happened to my personal life? So you just don't know when work starts and life begins sometimes. Okay, so where can people find you?
People can find me at puttylike.com, PUTTYLIKE.com, and also the puttyverse.com. There's those two sites will link to all of my different things, social media and all that. But yeah.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much for joining us today on the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been lovely. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks. Because the Orgasmic Lifestyle is about reaching climax in all areas. It's not like about orgasms. It's actually about, I'd also I actually reviewed your book in a previous episode. I always have a section called The Book I'm Reading Now. So it's like all about my multipotential interests, like nutrition and spirituality and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's great.
Okay, so good luck with your astrology project. Looking forward to when you start sharing stuff about that online. I'll be reading.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Have a nice evening.
Okay.
Bye. The book I'm reading now is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. This book was first published in 1937, and it's the most popular, the best-selling success book of all time. It was written by Napoleon Hill, and it took him a very long time to write this book. And it was he was researching the most powerful men at the time, and he wanted to come up with a kind of blueprint of how successful and rich men thought and what was their mindset. And this is the result. And a lot of people who read this book do find it to be life-changing. I know I did. For me, it's been life-changing on many ways, not just because I discovered sex transmutation through this book, which I briefly discussed earlier, but also it's a great book to help with your own mindset. And also whenever I read something by Napoleon Hill, it kind of gets me into a thinking big space. That's why I like to reread it and revisit it. And so I think it's a book that's definitely worth reading, but also rereading. And let me tell you what he found in his kind of blueprint of success. So let me read just a brief. There's one chapter per topic. So we have desire, faith, autosuggestion, specialized knowledge, imagination, organized planning, decision, persistence, power of the mastermind, and my favorite, the mystery of sex transmutation. Then the subconscious mind, the brain, the sixth sense, and how to outwit the 6 ghosts of fear. Fascinating stuff. So let me read a little extract for you from the chapter, The Mystery of Sex Transmutation. I have so much of this book already underlined because it's full of golden nuggets of knowledge. Anyway, let me read this to you. Sex energy is the creative energy of all genii. There never has been and never will be a great leader, builder, or artist lacking in this driving force of sex. Surely no one will misunderstand these statements to mean that all who are highly sexed are genii. Man attains to the status of a genius only when and if he stimulates his mind so that it draws upon the forces available through the creative faculty of the imagination. Chief among the stimuli with which this stepping up of the vibrations may be produced is sex energy. The mere possession of this energy is not sufficient to produce a genius. The energy must be transmuted from desire for physical contact into some other form of desire and action before it will lift one to the status of a genius. Far from becoming genii because of great sex desires, the majority of men lower themselves through misunderstanding and misuse of this great force to the status of lower animals. I find that fascinating. It's like has a lot of meanings that you can understand reading between the lines. So if you're highly sexed, it doesn't mean you're going to be successful. You have to kind of know how to channel that energy, because sexual energy can be our, it can enlighten us and it can also destroy us. It can be a very destructive energy as well. So it's just knowing how to handle these things. And also something that I find interesting is the 6 basic fears, which are the fear of poverty, number 1, the fear of criticism. And obviously this was written before social media existed, and I think this fear has been amplified now through trolling and all of these negative comments that people have. Anyone who's a content creator, anyone who's online has to deal with that quite a lot. The fear of ill health, the fear of loss of love of someone, the fear of old age, the fear of death. Yeah, so there are lots of tips about how to overcome these great fears. And this book is amazing. I think it's not good to read it too quickly, even though it's a very kind of easy read, but it's good to kind of digest bit by bit and also reread. I cannot recommend it enough. The Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Now it's time to slow things down as we prepare for this episode's guided affirmations meditation. It's probably not a good idea to listen to this while driving or operating machinery. Instead, take a break from whatever you're doing, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and enjoy. I am creating the career of my dreams. I am open to new opportunities. I have wonderful colleagues, collaborators, and clients. Everyone appreciates my work. I feel fulfilled in my career. I welcome new challenges as they are opportunities for growth. I enjoy what I do. I am creating the career of my dreams. I am grateful for all the lessons I learn through my work. I have a wonderful team. I enjoy what I do. I am creating the career of my dreams. I am open to new opportunities. I am able to use all my skills and learn some new ones. The more I learn, the more successful I am. Others appreciate my efforts. My talents are put to good use. I enjoy what I do. I am creating the career of my dreams. I am open to new opportunities. I love my job. I am worthy of the career I desire. New business leads are always available to me. I am paid well. I enjoy what I do. I am creating the career of my dreams. I am open to new opportunities. My income allows me to live very comfortably. I manage my time well. I have good work-life balance. I have enough to pay for all the things I need and desire. I enjoy what I do. Do you want to talk to me? I'm offering 60-minute sessions on Zoom. I offer a safe space for you to contact me to discuss any of the topics that I talk about on my website, YouTube channel, and on this podcast. Please note that I'm not a therapist. Our calls are not a replacement for therapy. Here is a list of topics that I will happily discuss with you. Sexual wellness product consulting, self-love mentoring, sex magic coaching and guidance, content creation brainstorming, accountability partnership, life in Barcelona, Spain, and how to veganize your life. If you'd like to book a call with me, please visit my website, venusohara.org, for more information. To find out more about me and my orgasmic lifestyle, visit venusohara.org or follow me on Instagram at instagram.com/venusohara. Make sure to search for the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks for listening, have an orgasmic week, and make sure every day is a climax.